It's all things MMA for scoreline.ie and KCLR. My name is Ken McGuire, joined as always on screen and in your ears by Mr. Myles Price. Look how easy it was to do that.
We got it.
We just got this thing down. How are you, sir? How are things?
Yeah, good. Yeah, week's going really well. Just finished a bit of an old training session there earlier on. So yeah, feeling good.
You had a couple of guys fighting. We mentioned it last week on the podcast. You had a couple of guys up the north. You were back up to the Devonish.
Up the wee north.
Yeah, how did things go?
Good. Kale won by rear naked choke. Unfortunately, Lee and Thomas lost. But, I don't know. I wouldn't say unfortunately. I'd say that in winning or losing, you learn a lot about yourself. It builds character. So fair play to the lads. They're the 1% at the end of the day to go in there and challenge themselves and fight in a cage, So there's a lot to be learned from it. It's all part of the journey. It was all their first fight. So Kale just came out with the victory this time,
Nice. And while we may have suggested it before last week or the week before, is there plans for any more? Have you got any more competitors out between here and the end of the year, or was it kind of I know Paul had a couple of weeks, and then with 3 lads out at the weekend, that kind of made for a busy couple of weeks.
Yeah. So in December, we have Kale, Maddie, Paul, Thomas. There's definitely a few more guys there. I just can't get them at the top of my head right now. But we have a lot of lads fighting on that day, basically. Yeah,
they're there anyway. Good stuff.
Yeah,
More power. We've got plenty of things to talk about and touch on this week. Obviously, what we want to do, because today is Wednesday. UFC 280 is coming up the weekend. Everybody's back out in Abu Dhabi enjoying what's obviously not Irish weather, but the good weather and the good life. We touched on this a couple of weeks ago, and there's a couple of other stories that have filtered out and will probably weave their way through UFC 280 as they've become part of the narrative. The card as it stands, which is going to be this coming weekend, it's on Saturday night or in the very early hours of Sunday morning. You'll be able to watch it on BT Sport or I presume ESPN or something along those lines. Anyway, is the UFC 280 card. The vacant lightweight championship is the main event. That's Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev. Then we're going to see the bantamweight title up for grabs. Aljamain Sterling as defending champion against TJ Dillashaw, who's getting a shot at his old belt. See if he can pull that one back. Peter Yan and Sean O'Malley in a fight that possibly makes superstars, according to Sean O'Malley. Beneil Dariush and Matthias Gamrot, Caitlin Chikagi and Manon Fiorot are closing out. That's the main card side of things. A couple of good things on the undercard. Bilal Muhammad and Sean Brady are going to top that. Volkan Ozdemir and Nikita Krylov in a kind of I was going to say an Eastern European clash. I think Nikita's Ukrainian. But nice to see No Time back out again. And there'll be no doubt there'll be a couple of surprises, as there have been on the early fights and on the early prelims and then the actual prelims. But we're going to focus on those 3 main events again, or the 3 kind of key fights. So Yan O'Malley, Sterling Dillashaw, and Oliveira Makhachev, because a lot of stuff has happened in between. We've learned a couple of permutations that, for example, the winner of Yan and O'Malley is next in line for a bantamweight title shot, regardless of comes out on top between Aljo and TJ at the weekend. We know that Alexander Volkanovski was named as the stand-in for the title. So in case Oliveira comes out or misses weight, or Islam comes out or misses weight, that we will still get a lightweight title fight. The title is still vacant anyway, so somebody's going home with it this weekend, one of the 3, but presumably one of either Oliveira and Makhachev. And if it's Oliveira or Makhachev, then we know that Volkanovski is going to be next in line for a crack at the lightweight title. So maybe let's start there as the main event. Has anything, in your opinion, changed on what way you see Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev going over the last 2 or 3 weeks since we last spoke about it?
At the top of my head right now, I feel like my heart still says Oliveira, my head still says Islam Makhachev. But I think that's a very, simple narrative in regards to the contest. I think it's very messy. I don't know who's going to win. I really don't. I think that Oliveira is just a completely different beast. I think his IQ is very, very good. I just think that it's either going to be Oliveira. I don't know. It's one of those fights that usually I have like some sort of an idea about who's going to win and stuff. I just don't in this fight. The two of them are too well matched for each other, and I think that you could easily see Islam going 5 rounds and making a bore fest with the takedowns. But gee, is he going to be able to stay on top and not be in danger with the submissions with Oliveira? I highly doubt it. And he's going to. I think Oliveira is so good at wrestling up, and he's so good at being active offensively on his back that he makes people posture up to give space, and then he uses that space with up kicks or technically standing back up again. And his striking is no doubt crisper than Makhachev's. He's a crisper striker, definitely, But Islam is an amazing striker too. He's just not as good as Oliveira.
Is there, if they are so well matched, is there the concern that it drifts into that 5-round borefest territory, and that both could come out and just be not very cagey, probably more respectful, knowing that they're both very well matched, and respectful of each other's skill sets, or is there something like, because there was something I'd read during the week, Oliveira coming out and saying like, whatever weaknesses you think he had, I'm totally paraphrasing here, but the weaknesses you think he had or the weaknesses that he has don't exist anymore. There are no weaknesses. Islam's not going to fear anybody. Do either of these guys need to come out and make a statement of intent and go, do you know what, we're just going to go at it toe to toe, first round, he who hits hardest and hits first wins?
I think that if anybody's going to do that, it's Oliveira. It won't be Makhachev. I don't think it'll be Makhachev. I think Oliveira has fought. The reason why he's been fighting so well over the last couple of fights is because he has that forward pressure, and it's because he's very good at that intentional pacing forward, lifting his knee, willing to engage, and just stay slightly out of range, but keep the forward pressure. I think that's the change in Oliveira. I don't think Islam's actually a little bit more of a calculated athlete compared to Oliveira. But I think Oliveira has the IQ, but he has the intensity. So I don't think it'll be Islam. I think it'll be Oliveira coming forward and putting the pressure on,
Do you see any weaknesses in either's game?
I think the obvious, like maybe Oliveira might regress. Maybe he's gone through some personal stuff over the last fight camp. Maybe he's worn out of being a champion. And maybe something has gone on where he might automatically regress back to just wanting to give up in a fight. The many factors that come into that, that could happen. It's psychologically. Islam, I don't think he has that, to be honest with you. I think he's pretty calloused in his mindset. I think that skill wise, oh man, I think Islam can get caught by Oliveira's striking, definitely. I don't think Oliveira is able to submit Makhachev. I also don't think he's able to take him down, but I do think that he has the skill to get back up to his feet, to make enough threats, enough wrestle up attempts to strike and finish Islam. Islam can finish Oliveira, I think, kind of anywhere, really. I actually think he can. I think he can. I don't think he can submit him, actually. I don't think either of them are going to submit each other. But I think Islam can easily grind out a wrestling style match, and he can finish Oliveira with striking too. He has that power. Man, I don't know.
Is that that kind of Khabib style where it was like, I'm just gonna out wrestle you and frustrate you, and I know in the back it's like when I need to strike, I can do it. But he's he could be happy to drag things along or just make things physically awkward for Oliveira without imposing himself until, like you're saying, if he's that bit more clinical, that he's and that bit more calculated, that we could see something like that happen. It's like I'll try and smother you with the ground side of things, with the wrestling side of things, and then take my chances striking on the ground or on the feet when it's needed, without rushing into it.
I think
nail to the mast. Like,
what's that?
It's a tricky one to try and nail to the mast.
It is really tricky. It's because they're so well matched, and the two of them have been very dominant over the last couple of fights, you know. And as I was saying about Oliveira, like, you can't disregard who he is now from who he was before, you know. What's that quote? Don't remind a man of his past if he's trying to change right now, you know what I mean? And like, he's doing enough of that himself. Like, he knows the person he was before, but he also has developed into the person he is today because of that person in the past, you know. So I think Oliveira is the working man's hero. I think he's very resilient, and I think that, oh man, it's just I do think that Oliveira is a lot more well-rounded than Islam, though. I will say, like, I can't pick a dimension in Oliveira's game that I go, he's not good at that, you know. Whereas I definitely think that Islam is a higher percentage wrestler above being a higher percentage jiu-jitsu or striker practitioner. Yeah, so I think Oliveira is the all-round package. I think Islam is extremely good at wrestling, but, you know, if you had to pick something that he could potentially get caught with against Oliveira, it would be striking or jiu-jitsu.
Okay, so last question on this one for you. Ignore what the head says and ignore what the heart says. Now nail your colors to the mast and tell me who's going to win this fight.
You run me against the wall now on this one. Here I'm in the firing lines. What am I going to do? Oh, man. Oliveira by TKO. Oh, wow. Okay, wow. Round three.
Round three as well. That's a big call. Okay.
Isn't it? If that was in the bookies, I'd have like a 1% chance. I think.
I'm going to stick that down here on a list of post-its for next week. I got somebody's lovely pen that I picked up somewhere. So Oliveira in 3.
Okay, hold on. Okay, yeah. Now we're going down this road. How about we put something on the line? How we do that, Ken? Put something on the line. Put money where your mouth is.
Grand. You get Oliveira round 3 TKO. I'll buy you lunch wherever you want in Kilkenny.
What was it? Campania. I want Campania.
I don't know. I think they're closed that day.
Then. Anyway, Mount Julia, any of the 5 stars will go there. I
think they're all washing their hair that day or something. We'll figure that
out. Then your call. We need your side now.
Look at it again. It's the head heart. The head heart says. The head heart says kind of Oliveira with the heart side of things, and Islam to cause a lot of trouble on the head side of things. I'm hopeful for Oliveira. I don't know if it's I do think he's got longevity if it needs to go beyond second round, third round into the fourth round. I would love to see Oliveira by submission fourth round.
Oliveira submission fourth round.
Yeah, I think it will go that deep.
Oh, yeah, that's a good call as well. I was gonna say fourth round TKO, but I think he might just get it at the end of the third round.
And look, this thing will be over.
What's gonna happen if Islam wins? We'll just split lunch then.
We'll just split lunch. Yeah, exactly. Well, if Islam wins, he gets to fight Alexander Volkanovski next. How would you see something like that happening? Because you've got. Volkanovski's been cleaning up around the featherweight side of things, had the trilogy with Max Holloway. and all went his way, all went very favorable, and he's being thrown in as the next in line, which presumably rules Henry Cejudo out of any potential coming out of retirement and coming back in for a crack at the featherweight title, at least for the moment anyway, if the view is to get Volkanovski to move up to 155 for a crack at the lightweight title. So if you were to put Volkanovski in there against Oliveira or Islam, you've got a very different prospect on your hands. You've got a very different, completely different rounded fighter, athlete. How would you see that going? I know this is purely hypothetical because so much can happen between here and Saturday, Sunday, and presumably this fight won't happen until, at least 6 months from now.
So are we talking about Volkanovski versus Oliveira? That's the first option, is it?
So either or. So we know that Volkanovski is a stand-in and will be there in the case that one of them drops out. But regardless of that, Volkanovski will be next for either Oliveira or
excuse me. I think he loses both those fights, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't think that he's big enough, and that's it. Plain and simple. I think that I just think that everywhere he'd lose, honestly, and I'm not disregarding Volkanovski's skill set. I think he's an absolutely amazing athlete, but I think there's a huge difference between. It's like when Dustin Poirier moved up to lightweight, and then Max Holloway had a rematch against him for the interim lightweight title at lightweight. Like, Dustin was not as good at featherweight as he was at lightweight because he's a natural lightweight, Yeah. Max Holloway is a natural featherweight. So when he moved up, there was a huge transition and difference in power, And I think that Volkanovski is a natural featherweight. And I think Oliveira is a natural lightweight as opposed to what he was a featherweight. That's very clear by his dominance. And I also think that Islam is clearly, he's probably more of a natural welterweight, actually. He's huge. But so I just think that simply power and size alone, because at that level, you're talking about 1% when it comes to differences in skill. I think it'll be an overpowering challenge to get over power and size at the lightweight division for Volkanovski. He's just too small.
Okay. Let's take a look at the co-main event for the night, which is the bantamweight title fight between TJ Dillashaw, who has had one fight since he's come back from his PED suspension. So he had the win over Corey Sandhagen last July. That was his comeback fight. Himself and Sterling were supposed to fight last month, I think, in September, and then it got kicked out to 280. Sterling has been on quite the run. Obviously, had the title win by DQ against Peter Yan in March of last year. Had the rematch in April of this year. Won the split decision. Now, I know TJ's been having his say quite vocally this week. He's in the shape of his life. He's been rather critical of Aljamain Sterling, saying, when it comes to the UFC and their intro videos, we can't put together a highlight reel for you because it's not like you're the kind of fighter who delivers on highlights or any kind of special moments in your fight.
Who said that about who?
TJ in relation to Aljamain Sterling.
Yeah, he's smack talking, is he? Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Talking. Like TJ is going in there with the mentality of going, okay, look, I got done for my suspension. I didn't lose the title that I had won, and won quite hard in the first case. Obviously had the loss to Cejudo when he went for the shot at the double title. He, credit to him, like, I like seeing TJ Dillashaw fight. He's done the crime. He's served his time. He's very capable. Usually very entertaining. Aljamain Sterling, I like as I don't know. There's just something quite affable about him as a person. At the very least, and this is being like, these are so general, broad strokes. But I would hazard this is going by way of TJ Dillashaw.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat as you there. Like, I just feel like that TJ is a little bit more well-rounded, and I think that he could break Sterling. I think I'm not a fan of TJ Dillashaw personality-wise. Fan of his skills, not a fan of his personality really. But I do feel like from a pure objective standpoint, I think he's winning this fight. Yeah, I think he's taking it.
How is he going to do it?
I think he'll probably. I think it's another tough one, really. I think quite possibly that he'll finish Sterling in the 4th round. I think it'll get to the stage because Sterling does have an old cheeky habit of gassing out. He does.
Yeah,
you know, he tends to fade in the later rounds, and he tends to blow his gasket. I was going to say something else. Blow his gasket a little bit early in the fight. So I think that that's probably going to happen in the contest as well. He might give it everything to win the first couple of rounds and then coast the last few. Which is, if I'm mistaken, that's kind of how it went with the Peter Yan fight as well, wasn't it? Yeah. The second fight, where he kind of won the first 3 by taking the back, and then he kind of coasted along for the last 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could happen again. Yeah,
like you watched the countdown earlier this week. TJ was on the countdown saying that Sterling doesn't have the mentality that he has, that he's going to bite down on the mic piece, that he's going to beat the shit out of you. He says that Sterling, as a fighter, while he doesn't have any concerns about him, is a fighter who is willing to give up. He sees the quit in him. He is going to make him quit. He's not worried about, what's going to happen. It's like TJ sees this already as a complete mismatch.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it as a complete. I think that's probably his ego. He's probably being a bit narcissistic there, I'd say, which is dangerous, but also rewarding if you're kind of like so invested in it. It's also dangerous. I think that you can't underestimate somebody who is a champion, and somebody who has come back from a very resilient situation with the first fight against Yan and his criticism. It showed a lot of character. I think that showed a lot of character for Sterling, and I was surprised by the outcome as well. So I'm not going to underestimate him. I think that goes in a way. We're kind of in the same category as the Charles Oliveira debate. Like, oh, well, he's given up before. Yeah, but what about the man he is now? Do we have to keep picking out the negatives all the time? You can take it in consideration, but I wouldn't hold too much weight on it. And I don't think either should TJ if he's smart. Yeah. Unless he's probably just playing mind games. He's probably just playing mind games. Maybe he truly believes it. Maybe he doesn't. I think he actually believes it. I think he's the type of character that would actually believe that. But I don't think that he's. I don't think that's a smart game plan.
Yeah, and we shouldn't. I'm please don't take this in that I'm trying to take anything away at all from Aljamain Sterling. Absolutely not. I think going in there as a champion who won the belt and then defended it. And then obviously he's had those couple of good wins. He's had the wins against Corey Sandhagen. He had the win against Pedro Munoz. And you're probably going back 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years, since he's lost a fight, and he's picked him up, or he's picked himself up. Then I know he had the injury. There was talk about the neck surgery. There was a couple of other things that were coming into play.
And just excuse me for a second. How did he beat Pedro Munoz? I didn't know that he beat him.
Unanimous decision. You're going back to, this was UFC 38, whatever was kind of the summer card from 2019.
That's a good win. It's a good win. Pedro Munoz is good.
It is, yeah. And like we saw like Sean O'Malley went up against him earlier this year. It ended in the no contest, accidental eye poke fight. Didn't continue beyond the middle of the second round. So I would have been interested to see how O'Malley would finish out against because that obviously feeds into the next fight, which is O'Malley and Peter Yan. So O'Malley is in there. He says, or it was quoted somewhere during the week, saying that this is the kind of fight that makes superstars. Peter Yan is determined that this is the kind of fight that shuts down that Sean O'Malley hype. Whereas Sean is seeing it going, okay, well, if I'm real, the hype is real, I get this win against Yan, then who I've beaten as a former title holder, as a former top contender, as the current top contender, and that puts him immediately into the frame for the winner of TJ Dillashaw and Aljamain Sterling. There's an awful lot at stake for Sean O'Malley. I think on the personality side of things, I don't know where, because you lose this fight on paper. There's an awful lot of guys in the bantamweight division that are looking for their own crack at top contender at the title side of things. And Jan is very much in that picture there. Probably way more to gain for O'Malley than there is for Jan out of it. But like, even stylistically, how would you see this going at the weekend?
I think Jan's going to destroy O'Malley. I really don't see it. I don't see it going any other. I think O'Malley's going to go in there and he's going to give a little bit of resistance. And I think that he's probably going to have a good first round, and he's going to, because he's flashy and it's his moment, and he's going to give it everything. And look, it's a chaotic environment. In my opinion, is that Peter Yan is a bit of a step up far too soon. And you know, while we're on the topic of kind of egos and narcissism a little bit, like O'Malley's like that too. You know, he's bravado, his self-esteem is very high. But also he doesn't take responsibility for his failures, his shortcomings. He's, you know, a little bit delusional, you know, he's very showy and bravado. So at the same time, if his self-esteem is high, but he cares so much about what people think, that he has to have the cool tattoos and the flashy hair and the, you know, and the car and the lifestyle, you know. So there's a weakness to that too. You don't hear a lot about Peter Yan's kind of lifestyle. He's just a hard worker. He's a grafter, you know. So I think that he's a little bit delusional, Sean, as well. Like, I mean, to come out with that last fight against Pedro Munoz and to say that Pedro Munoz was looking for a way out is insanely immature and delusional. Yeah. So I think that if he brings that mindset into this fight, he's going to pay a harsh price, because Peter Yan, his nickname should be the computer, because he reads you, he figures you out, and he makes you pay. And he's extremely good fight IQ. He's one of the highest fight IQs in the game at the moment. Him and Charles Oliveira are very high fight IQ. And how you can judge that is just not by technique, but it's by somebody's adaptation within a contest. How fast can they figure you out and adapt in a chaotic environment, you know? And Jan and Oliveira are very good at that.
That's a fairly solid summation of what may happen at the weekend. I like it. And I know we touched on it before. I mean, if O'Malley can't get past Jan, you've got Marlon Vera in there, Rob Font is in there, Corey Sandhagen in there, Merab is in there. Okay, so they're the main fights out of the UFC 280 card. It is this coming Saturday night prelims from around about midnight-ish, and then I think it's a 3 a.m. card. It's out in Abu Dhabi anyway, so it's UFC 280. I've got to check this now just in case they've done any kind of changes for the winter. Have they? Oh, they have. Saturday, the main card at 7 o'clock. What? The main card is at 7 o'clock.
It's in Abu Dhabi.
Oh, of course. Abu Dhabi is like 4 hours ahead in the winter or something. Okay, well then that completely changes. Changes what we're going to do on Saturday night. Fantastic. The preliminary card gets underway from 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves one very busy Saturday afternoon of fight action.
We do. I'm going to be. I'm clearing my calendar now. Calendar's cleared.
So if that's the case, if the main card starts at 7 o'clock, with Caitlin Chikagian and Manon Fiorot, we should then see Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev out somewhere between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock on Saturday night. That's fantastic. You gotta love it when they move the cards out there. Very briefly, a couple of other things that have come across our radar for this week. There was talk, we'd mentioned Khabib briefly, Khabib Nurmagomedov as former UFC lightweight champion. A couple of things. We spotted that Javier Mendez, who you know quite well, has suggested that Khabib is very comfortable as a coach, isn't making any plans at all to return to the fighting side of things, nor should he, I think, at this stage of going. But we did hear from Khabib that he reckons that Tony Ferguson now is the time to call it a day. Done and dusted. As says or suggests that he's fighting for money with California-based fighters. And maybe you've experienced this, or you know from your dealings with the guys in California as well. On the tax side of things, it's quite mad. 50% of your winnings can be squirreled away in taxes. So the big sounding paydays aren't always as big sounding in reality as they are on paper or to a fan's ears. Is the time right? Is the time now for Tony Ferguson to go done and dusted? Don't mind looking for a different promotion. Just hang up them gloves.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, what my biggest worry. I was talking to you about this before. You know, my biggest worry with Tony is that what happens when he does retire. How is he going to fill that void? Like, to me, I don't think it's I don't think this is just me. I think a lot of people can kind of see and get the vibe off Tony that he hasn't got like there's a couple of mental health issues going on up there, and fighting is the way to channel it, and that's why he's been such a good fighter. But I do feel like that he could turn into a bit of a journeyman, because I don't think he has it together as to what he's going to do after fighting. You know, that's why I think he's come back even a little bit too many times as it is, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think that even against Nate Diaz is just a raging stoner that doesn't really give a shite about anything. And I think he could just stay loose and keep his personality, and everyone think he's great. Nate is who he is. I think Tony has some issues that are really dug down, that come up to the surface too much to consciousness, and they're filtered very heavily into fighting, which is why he's a good fighter. But also, more than likely, you know, without going too deep into the analyzing people, I think maybe that's not the case. But from what I see, I think he hasn't found out what his purpose is outside of fighting, and that's what's holding him back from retiring. So I don't think he's going to actually retire. I think he's going to have a few more fights, and I don't think he should. I think he should retire and find out some sort of other meaning and purpose in his life, you know, because he's done enough. What else has he got to prove? Like, really?
Last one I have for you, because we spent a little bit of time watching videos before we pressed record. Was the news that seemingly we're going to see a new Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta backed power slapping league. Is this the kind of thing that we can expect people coming into Team Ryan and Kilkenny now to prepare for?
I'm fucking going out. I'm coming straight back out of my last MMA contest, and I'm fucking switching straight up to this power slapping crack. God, I'm gonna make good money. Make good money. You can be my manager, Ken. Are you up for the job?
Can I'll just take that 20%, and I will watch you get the
20%. You're hardly getting 20%. I'm the one getting willingly fucking slapped every 2 seconds. You're standing back there just going, he'll be there Friday. Fuck off.
Hey, look, managers got to eat, man. Cost of living and everything.
I'll give you 5. Like we're haggling here at the caribou sale.
How do you think I pay for all of those Michelin star lunches that I keep promising to bring people on? 20%. Never work. In reality,
reality, we were watching it, and it's great crack, shock value, bit of banter. But I do feel like it's the step into the freak show too far, not taking people's health into consideration as much as they should. You know, it's like the whole crazy Russian MMA shows where they throw 4 people against 4 and it's all carnage. I mean, when's it a step too far? I mean, it's just, you know, of course you're going to get knockouts at every show. You know, if that isn't like, this could potentially be more dangerous than all that crazy Russian show stuff, because you're standing there and it's not a slap. Okay. It's like a slap. If anybody's taken a slap with the meaty part of the palm, not towards the top of the fingers, they understand that it's a punch as much as it is a slap. It's actually double. It's worse than a punch in a lot of ways. So you aren't going to get knocked out. You're willingly getting knocked out. You're willingly go damage me, damage my health, damage my mental health. That's basically what it is. Like, I can't promote it, but it's great crack to watch.
On that note, we'll leave it there for this week. This has been All Things MMA. He's been Myles Price. How can people get in touch?
teamrhinoclkenny@gmail.com or our website or Instagram.
Excellent. I've been Ken McGuire for Scoreline.ie and KCLR, and we'll do this all again next week. Good luck.
Good luck.